right, you dogs. Swab the decks and hoist the sails. The guns on board be needing some proper manning. Pieces of 8 and a fine wench on your arm, if your work be not too shoddy. Be careful not to flounder too badly, though, or you may have to dance the hempen jig as we see you to Davy Jones. Jeffy, my boy, on with the show.
Well, shiver me timbers. To our listeners from across all regions of the planet, welcome once again aboard the Robin Hood, flagship to the world's one and only cooperatively inspired charity podcast network, WPRPN. Broadcasting to the stars and beyond, from out of the sweltering midsummer heat, smothering the Korean Peninsula, you're listening to episode 117 of Pirate Radio Podcasts. I'm your host, as always, the ship's Chief Communications Officer, Jaffe Ryder. Wow, hard to believe it's been nearly 2 years since our next guest dropped by for a visit to the crew and ship we've christened the Robin Hood. Among his list of resume accolades and credentials, Angel the Jackal Espino serves as host of Inside the Jackal's Head, is a member and producer of both Skywatchers Radio and the Round Table Show, and is the owner of the PSN Radio Broadcasting Network. It's been a while since we last broke bread, so you can bet we'll have a lot of catching up to do. Among the likely topics we'll discuss, in what promises to be yet another fast-paced, jam-packed, approximately 90-minute exchange of cutting-edge ideas and information, pretty much all things ufology, Art Bell, hip-hop, pop culture, and, of course, pirate podcasting. Yeah, it is hard to believe it's been nearly 2 years since we last managed to catch up with one another. So we certainly have a lot of ground to cover. Thanks for dropping by, everybody, taking a little time out of your day to join us here in the live stream over YouTube. Of course, I'm your host, as always, the ship's Chief Communications Officer, Jaffe Ryder. And alongside us here in the shotgun seat, actually making his way up there to the crow's nest from the looks of things here this week, is Drew Lima. How's it going there, Drew? You managed to find your way to the top of the mast yet?
Yes, I did. Ahoy, you mateys.
Quite a rocky start there, getting things launched right from the get-go, but it looks like we do have an internet connection now, so that's a good thing. And I think hopefully managed to hold things together here and put together a pretty decent show this week. So, and Angel too, hopefully he hasn't dropped out. Still with us there, Angel?
Aye, matey, I am here ready to talk. Sort of.
Yeah, I guess you were saying you got a bit of a thyroid issue you're having to contend with there. I'm not sure what the status of that is, how much you want to get into it or not, but feel free. Just let's hear it. Where do you stand on the whole business?
Well, it's getting a little bit better, but it was pretty bad for a while. Yeah, it flared up about 6 months ago, and I had to kind of quit doing radio. I've actually been off radio for a while until recently, where I've done a couple podcasts here and there. It's just something I'm dealing with, and if I sound a little bit different than I did the first time I was on the ship here with you guys, it is for health reasons. I'm not having turned to meth. I'm not depressed. I haven't gone out on the plank and just said I'm ending it all, mateys. No. I'm cool. I'm just going through a little bit of a health crisis, but I'm on the mends, my friend.
Oh, that's great. You're managing to hold it together. So, you've been definitely in my thoughts the last number of months for sure. When you first told me that you were having to deal with the thyroid issue. So, but before we really dive into things here, and we've only got the 90-minute time frame, of course, too, and as you're, I'm sure, well aware, that flies by in a heartbeat.
Oh my goodness! Like. Yeah, it goes by so quick.
Yeah,
shows.
Hoping that I myself actually, just in listening to the product that we put together, conversation we had, October 2016 was when it was. I'm not sure if you remember that exact date, but I think I've really improved up my game a little, shall we say, since that time. So fingers crossed, yeah, you'll have a little more of I guess a confident and articulate host than last time around. But before we once again get into things in a major way here, let's just turn our sights and attention back to Drew, who I guess you're going to be up in the crow's nest there, keeping an eye on the YouTube chat. It looks like 8 people already with us there, Drew. That's we're off to a pretty decent start, wouldn't you say?
Yeah, it's a great, decent crowd for the night. And I will be manning the crow's nest, keeping my eye out for that Leviathan that seems to be troubling the waters on this lovely day.
Drew actually spearheads a project that goes by the name of Sons and Daughters of Liberty. I'm not sure if you've heard of him or not, Angel. He's also very active on Minds, as are most of the people that do engage us, our listeners, people that support the show and so forth. For some reason, there's very few people that are Facebook only. A lot of us, have both, of course, but we are quite active over on that the Minds.com platform, of which you yourself, I guess, I actually saw that you posted just recently a link to the show that we've just launched here this week, so that's great. But you really haven't been by there for the past little while, haven't? What's up? What's the deal there?
Yeah, the thing is, it's tough to keep up with all these different social network platforms like Twitter, Facebook, Minds. There's just so many of them, to be able to keep up. It's kind of hard, especially when you have to continuously, produce radio shows or work and have a regular, job. And I haven't had really a whole lot of time to devote to the Minds network. But it is a great website. I ain't gonna lie.
Yeah, they got a lot to offer for sure. Yep. And I think you'll notice, hopefully, if you spend a little time navigating your way around there, that things have definitely changed a little bit since the last time you were posting, just, I guess, back once again, almost around the same time we did the last show, October of 2016 or so. You managed to get the one Minds token, I think we sent you the other day as well, too, did you not?
Yes, thank you so much for that. Finally, I get a token.
Do you know that you can actually, I'm not sure how much you're into the blockchain thing or not, cryptocurrency and the like. That's strictly in-house, but they also have an on-chain project that they're working on launching. I don't think that's in place at this particular point. It will be quite shortly here, though, hopefully, fingers crossed once again. So, what have you been following, like crypto and as blockchain technology in any big way?
Not really, to be honest. Not at all.
Okay.
Yeah. It's kind of like the whole Bitcoin, the whole phenomenon has just like gone over my head. It really has.
Oh, yeah. No, I get it totally. I mean, I totally understand. So unless you're a major techno geek, of which clearly it sounds like you're not, other than the sort of guy who I think likes to buy gadgets, and that sort of thing. Maybe the latest iPhone or whatever.
I would put it this way: I'm more like the Bruce Wayne than I am, like, for example, Morgan Freeman's character, Lucius Fox, that creates the gadgets. I like playing with the toys. I don't like so much knowing about how it's made or what's the hottest thing. Just give me something that's really hot and I'll run with it. That's kind of like the way I am. But I know I am kind of a techno geek. But the whole BitLore thing, just or the cryptocurrency phenomenon it's one of those things where I haven't really had a whole lot of time to devote to it. Just it's personal reasons. It's just there's so much in this world to go out and devote your time to and get distracted with, and you have only so little of a time and space to dedicate to these things. So you kind of really how do you spend a few hours learning about these different cryptocurrencies and whatnot, and what things mean, and what this does, and and then you still have to keep up with all the other projects you're working on. I'm also working on a film that I'm writing, which I've been writing for the last 6 months, and that's something that's kind of distracting. So there's so many other things that it's just been one of those things that I haven't really devoted time to. But I'm kind of a techno geek. Don't be fooled. If I devote a little time to it, I'm pretty sure I can pick it up and know exactly everything.
I think, really what you're talking about here is how we spread ourselves out too thin. I know that I've hit, reached my breaking point, basically, where I can't do it anymore either. We got, Twitter, YouTube, what the hell, Minds, Facebook, of course, and so on and so forth. And now we got Tommy Shutter out there, a.k.a. Tom Schaefer, a.k.a. the Free Cosmos, and what he's doing, because he's been helping out with our web tech end of things. People, if you do drop by WPRPN.com, will notice a bit of a different look, and so we're working on getting that further on, down the road as far as development is concerned. But he's kind of got plugged in, it seems like, everywhere, and he, wanting me and I guess others to sign up on all these other platforms as well too. And you can only do so much, of course, and it just gets to the point where you have to start saying, I can't take it anymore. So hey man, but before we get too bogged down or sidetracked with maybe what some might regard as trivia, I suppose, why don't we back things up a little bit here? And for listeners that have not yet heard the story of who Angel Espino is, where you've come from, of course, your roots and so forth, which I'm well aware of, and even how the two of us met, frankly, why don't you lay that out for our listening audience, including, if you want, the network that you run over there at courtesy of PSN Radio.
PSN-radio.com. That's where all the magic happens. At least that's what I like to tell folks. It doesn't always work out that way, but it's a little radio network I've been running now since, I'd say 2010, around there, roughly. I've hosted several shows on there. I've produced a lot of shows on there. We had Nancy and Bill Burns for a long time doing their show, Future Theater, on there. Right now, I've taken, like I said, a little bit of a break during this whole thing with my thyroid. But as I am bringing back in January the Jackal's Head, which is my main stable. That's my main show. I've been doing that show since 2008. Time flies, doesn't it? It's incredible. And I started that show back then. I started Skywatchers Radio, which I produce, the Roundtable show, which I produce on Sunday nights, and Skywatchers on Tuesday nights, by the way, at 11. The network's been around for a while. It's growing now. We're starting to hit YouTube and doing a lot of video stuff with some of the hosts that are running their shows on the network. And it's just all fun, We do it as a hobby, as a lot of us do it on the internet. And, you can't really take a lot of this stuff and pretend it's going to be, monetary right away and you're going to make a whole lot of cash on it. But we try to, make it as much fun as possible, and everybody contributes as much as they can. Again, daily lives, daily routines, daily expenses. We've all come together as a community on that network, and so far so good. We've kind of lasted for, since 2010. Type. We're doing good. And as far as how me and Jaffe met, I'd like to let Jaffe say that as I need to take a little swig of water here and clear my throat. Jaffe, go for it.
All right. So, even with the first show that we did and have archived now, back in October of 2016, people can find it there in the Podomatic archives. It's, of course, as regular listeners are well aware, an outfit, platform that we no longer are engaging for a number of reasons, which they can find via the last show that we uploaded over there. Just talking about outlining our reasons for leaving and heading over to archive.org. But yeah, going back to the show in 2016, October, I think it had something to do with us first crossing paths maybe during the whole Radio Wars debacle that took place over the course of at least a month or so, maybe a couple of months, where Leo Ashcraft and Keith Rowland really seemed to be crossing swords in a big way. Art Bell kind of seemed to it seemed like he didn't want any part in things. He just thought it was best to keep stay away from keep out of the fray, I guess. But I think it was around that time, and I'm not sure exactly at what point we first. Well, here's what it is. I know one of the things for sure is I started listening to you as via Future Theater Radio. You were holding down the co-host position there with Bill and Nancy Burns, and I first tuned into their show because of Bill's work via UFO Hunters. I'm pretty sure that's how it happened. And
correct.
It's a small world, really. There's it seems like the podcasting people out here, it's not too many degrees of separation, frankly, and you start bumping up against the same people that you've just talked to, not so long before, you first had your most recent conversation, or heard the latest gossip, perhaps, or rumors, or whatever. So, yeah, it's a small world, definitely. Can you maybe clarify any better than my lousy attempt?
No, you're right. You're hitting right on the head. It was around that time period, and since then, of course, we've lost the legendary, iconic Art Bell. He's passed away, and it's a tragedy, no matter what way you look at it, the way he left us. And I think back how lucky we were on Skywatchers Radio. We followed great shows on that network, but the number one thing that sticks out for me, and I'll take to my grave, is that for at least 6 months we were Art Bell's lead-in show. And our show came out before his show on Tuesday nights, and of course Future Theaters on Monday nights. And then he followed us right after our show, and we did that for the entirety that he was on the air on Dark Matter Radio Network. And that's thanks to Keith Rowland. I mean, I got to give a shout out to that man. What he's been able to do over there and continue after Art's passing is just phenomenal work. And he deserves the credit for putting that together. And Art Bell, man, I miss the hell out of him. I really, really do. Dave Schrader is the new host over there on Midnight in the Desert, and he's doing a fantastic job holding it down. But there'll never be another Art Bell. That's That's the guy we all actually, we all emulate. We all wanted to be like Art Bell, listening to Coast to Coast AM when we were kids. When I was a kid, at least, during the '90s, and I say kid, but I was in my early, mid-teens, early 20s, during the time that I was really hitting big. And I remember just sitting back and listening to all the crazy voices that would come out on his show. The Richard Hoaglands and the Sean Mortons and all these folks that would have these outlandish stories and these crazy things that happened supposedly in their lives and stuff that they were working on and investigating. And it's always it was always a fun ride listening to Art Bell. And there's going to be a lot that emulate him, myself, others included, a lot that take little bits and pieces from who he was as a voice on the radio. Even of course, you have Coast to Coast is still going on with the amount of time they've been on the air with all the hosts they have supplementary to their main staff, which I don't want to name, but they've been able to continue forward. And it's just not the same. When Art leaves, you really, really do feel it. And when he left us, I certainly felt it. I had been off radio for a little bit now when he passed, and for a while I didn't think when he died, I didn't think I was going to come back to radio. To be honest, Jeff, I thought that when his passing, I thought maybe I should just give up radio myself, because I was like, what, that's the second icon that I looked up to as the amateur radio wannabe host growing up that now has passed away, and it made me just feel old for one. But it just it brought my own mortality into play, and then my health started kind of giving out a little bit, and it brings a lot of things to the forefront into perspective. And my condolences to Art's family, obviously, who he left behind a lovely wife and kids, and just recently had a son too, which is really sad, William Bell. And to know that he just recently had a son, that's that kills me. But other than that, again, big shout outs and a lot of love to Keith Rowland and the entire Dark Matter Radio Network. But you're absolutely right. We met around that time period when we were doing a lot of work with Future Theater, and that's another show I miss. A lot of love to Bill and Nancy Burns, by the way.
Oh yeah, that was hugely influential in helping to inform myself, and I'm sure many others, of course, too. That's the whole point of why people do these sort of things, is to share information, and whether it's misinformation or disinformation or actually, the real kind of deal, that's all debatable, of course, and hashtag fact check. The whole recent talk, of course, regarding fake news, and there are some people out there that intentionally go out of their way to mislead others in a really sneaky, kind of underhanded way. But then there's others, of course, many of us, who we sometimes repeat things and stating in a definitive manner that we really don't know what the hell we're talking about, so we got to be careful.
Right.
And that's where the misinformation comes in versus the disinformation, which is the intentional deception. And hashtag fact check. That's really all I can say, though, from the standpoint of an independent journalist's point of view. But yes, Art Bell, man, myself very much like you, going back mostly, I suppose, about the mid-90s. I remember back in Canada, many a wintry night, tuning into the show and just doing everything I could to pick up every last scrap of information or story or report or update that came to me via the web, typically. Quite isolated up there in the north central part of British Columbia, whose, I think, internet connection, even to this day, is, total, very bush league to say the least. So they would never talk about. Well, actually, no. This came via, let's see, the web, but also I think they might have picked it up, the show Coast to Coast at 11 o'clock, 12 o'clock, midnight. When did things kick off in the Western time zone with Coast to Coast back in the mid 90s? About 11 o'clock.
Well, I mean, it was always meant to be that midnight show, so I'm not really sure how that worked out. I know here on the East Coast, I'm in Florida, as many of you know, and at least out here, it would start off at midnight. That's when it would kick off. I don't know how the time zones would make a difference. When it would start over there, they would get a delayed show, or if it would be. Look, Art was such a professional that I wouldn't put it past Art to maybe start a couple hours earlier and do like a whole, a midnight show later on different time zones, and just do 6 hours of radio instead of 3 or whatever the schedule was, and do that, once in a while. He lived for radio, so.
He most certainly did. And it's quite interesting, too, now looking back to the way that he finally ended his career, essentially with that whole, well, I'm not sure what you would call it exactly. It was really quite bizarre, of course, the incident where he claimed that he was being shot at and felt in fear for not only his life, but his family's well-being and safety as well, too. Of course, I don't think anyone ever really managed to get to the bottom of that and get a clear sense of whether it was Art kind of going out on a bit of a ledge and exaggerating things, perhaps. I would hate to think he was totally fabricating the whole story, but there's some people that do believe that. At the same time, he may have legitimately found himself being targeted for one reason or another. What are your thoughts on the matter?
At first I didn't think that that he was lying. I thought he really was being targeted. And, as time passes, I look at the situation, the way it all went down, and I've kind of changed my mind a little bit on the entire situation just after he's passed away, and it wasn't that long after that incident. What I think, ended up finally happening was, I think Art found out that he wasn't that healthy, and he didn't have that long to be with us, and it scared him because he had a little girl, he had a wife, and I think he wanted to spend whatever time he had left with them. And he might have gotten a threat that might have, happened. I mean, I've gotten threats on the internet, like you wouldn't believe, over the years. So that doesn't shock me if somebody made a threat at him or something. But also look at the fact that he stayed on as kind of a mentor for the person who took over for him for a little bit. Heather Wade, I believe that who took over right away. And that she was there, for the entire time that he was alive until he passed. And so when you look at that and you put that into perspective, then he passes kind of like in a mysterious, certain way. I think it was mostly him just, scared that he wasn't going to end up having enough time to kind of leave an impression on his daughter and maybe the rest of his kids and his family. So I think he wanted maybe to spend that time with them, and that's something that he didn't come out with, for his own personal reasons, which I am completely, accepting to. I mean, that's completely understandable, and I don't hold it against him or anything like that. But I think that really is the excuse why he did what he did, and why he kind of, went and separated himself from the show. The show continued. I mean, and he continued to be a behind-the-scenes mentor to Heather Wade. So it wasn't something that it was so bad that he kind of completely left the spectrum, just disappeared or anything like that. So, that's my thoughts on it right now. I don't want to get too conspiratorial or deep into it, but That's pretty much where I'm at right now with it. But again, it doesn't really matter. The fact is that he's gone, and we've lost a great one.
Indeed. So we're going to give you just a moment or two to maybe grab another drink of water there, take a bit of a break, and turn our sights up to the crow's nest here to see if we can connect with our co-host. He's a bit of a newbie to the position, actually, Drew Lima, but we're going to see.
Right.
Well, Sons and Daughters of Liberty, great little project there that he's got on the go. Of course, we are speaking here, episode 117, with PSN Radio CEO and founder Angel Espino, someone who wears a number of other
different badges
or podcasting
By the way,
roles.
You can just call me Angel or Jackal or something simple. You don't have to use the full name the entire time.
We'll maybe get into that. The Jackal as well too. That whole handle. We'll get into that in a second here. We covered that in the first show, but for people that haven't had a chance to listen to what we archived a couple of years ago, it will be interesting just to revisit that in brief. But before we do that, Drew, how are things looking there from your vantage point, and what you can see out across not only the horizon of the high digital seas, but here as well, as we managed to reach that magical 10 people altogether, it looks like now, joining us here as we stream out live number. So that's really great. What are your thoughts there, or what can you see once again, just as far as developments in the YouTube chat and beyond?
Seems to be smooth sailing, Captain. YouTube chat's been flowing pretty good. To come listening to him, I caught the part, the earlier episode that he was on, and I caught the thing about the Jackal. But I was catching some of the imageries in the slideshow, and I seen the dog with the pharaohs. I can't remember what they actually call that, but the headdress of the pharaoh. And I was wondering if it went even deeper into some of the Egyptian stuff on that.
Funny you mentioned that. That actually was done up by a gentleman by the name of Dennis Reno. Big shout-outs to Dennis Reno. He's huge in the world of ufology. And what he does, he's the UFO caricature artist. He draws different ufologists. He's done all the big names you can think of. And he's actually pretty well known, and I'm not even kidding. And I've been really lucky. We struck up a friendship a few years ago, and I think I'm one of the few folks that he's actually done more than once on his portfolio. I think he's done me 3 or 4 times for whatever reason. My goofy expression in my face makes him want to draw me. I don't know, but he sent out a couple of different versions of what I look like in his cartoon world over the years, and I've collected them. He's given me the authority to use them as promo, and he's an amazing human being, great artist. Not just because he drew me and sent me that stuff, but I've commissioned him for other work, and he is an artist you can commission for work, by the way, folks. So look up Dennis Reno cartoon UFO, and you'll find him, I'm sure. And just a fantastic guy. But I am fascinated by Egypt, I'm not going to lie. But that's not the reason why I'm called the Jackal. And I do want your listeners to go back to the archive and listen to the full reason. But it has to do with more, not only my Egyptian, interests, but it has actually to do with something that happened in the 90s, which had to do with a friend of mine who passed away from brain cancer, and a book I was reading at the time about Carlos the Jackal, the terrorist. And there was a movie coming out with Bruce Willis at that time called The Jackal, and my friend, when he was passing away, kind of christened me The Jackal, and it kind of just stuck. And Till today, I'm called that as a nickname whenever I do anything in the entertainment industry. And funny enough, Dennis Reno like picked up on that, and when he was doing his caricature of me, he decided to include some, I guess, Egyptian stuff into it. He asked, how deep I wanted to get into anything dealing with my friend or whatever in the drawings. I said, no. If you want to do anything that has to do with the name, do something Egyptian, because I'm into that also. I didn't want to like drag that whole experience, with my friend who passed away, into the drawings itself. I thought that'll be a little morbid. But no, he added that as part of my interest. But it really had to do with a friend of mine who had passed away, and something that had nothing to do with Egyptian culture at the time. But that's the whole story in a nutshell. But if you want to get, I think we're pretty, we fleshed it out pretty good here. But I think if you go back to the archive, you get a nicer, storytelling of the whole thing. It's a sad story.
Yeah, it most certainly was quite touching. Anything more, Drew, that you'd like to add to things?
Nah, just listening and interacting in chat for right now. Enjoying these nice calm seas while we have them.
Relatively, yeah. Once again, off to that pretty erratic and perplexing start, we managed to rebound quite nicely, thankfully. So one of the things that jumps out at me, though, over in the YouTube chat is how it looks like, and I did manage to kind of multitask while Angel was just unpacking a few things, that back in February of this year, it looks like South Korea introduced a bill to legalize medical marijuana, which is really quite something. Yes. It seems like the question is being raised, and this has been new. This is news to me. I'm someone who tries to stay on top of these things, and I heard nothing about the whole matter here until just now. I know I'd been quite active online, Facebook in particular, and it got me kicked out of a few groups because I dared even broach the subject. How dare you, talk about this as an expat in Korea? These, I guess, self-righteous, holier-than-thou, smug little millennials or what have you, typically is what it seems, social justice warrior, cultural Marxists. That I don't know what the deal is exactly there, but it's
keep going. You're doing pretty good so far. Go ahead, continue.
I took a lot of flack. Is what really the most important point to bear in mind. And I was really kind of leading the charge, believe it or not. Nobody else actually dared to stick their head above the parapet. I think that's the right word. And I'm not sure so much as throw their hat into the ring as just engage the issue and talk about it, for Christ's sake. How the hell else is something like this going to ever change unless you start to engage in a conversation? My wife has, even up till now, she's kind of laid off as of late. She's like, oh, geez, don't talk about that. Just stay quiet and don't even bother going there, frankly. But I've looked into the history, and I know, once again, as listeners, it's kind of beating a bit of a dead horse here, sounding at risk of sounding like too much of a broken record. The fact is, the then dictator Park Chung-hee, 1976, got a call from Washington, and I'm not sure who it was exactly, whether it was the president, Ford, presumably. I think, I hope it wasn't Carter. That's another story. But anyways, you got a call from somebody in a high level of government in the U.S., and from the sounds of it, there was some sort of quid pro quo business deal. Fascism at its finest worked out in the sense of, hey, you start prohibition of this evil weed and really crank up the propaganda machine, and we will in turn help to stimulate your economy via the sale of alcohol, tobacco, and pharmaceuticals. Typical kind of playbook, sort of strategy and agenda, the way that they've done things here, the Kraken, as it were, the corporate, really high-powered fascist Kraken. And that's what happened, and the propaganda machine once again flew into high gear. The people here heavily dumbed down, frankly, because of what they've had essentially bombarding them since 1976 via their corporately, tightly controlled media outlets, television, newspapers, and so on. Even the internet now, YouTube, for crying out loud, although I must say it's not as bad as China, where I don't think you can even access YouTube or Facebook. Thank God they've at least got that here. But YouTube won't even let kids, if you're 19 or younger, you've got to log in using your cell phone just to watch a documentary on the history of weed, for example, of cannabis or hemp. So how do you expect them to learn anything if you're going to hide the truth from them? So it's what I refer to as Plato's ignoble lie. You know, I'm not sure if you're up to speed on the Republic or not. The book, of course, you probably heard about it, Plato's Republic, but oh God, don't tell the children. So that sort of thing. But I'm not sure if you really want to comment on that. Maybe it actually stands to assist you with your thyroid issue. I think miso does. It just came to mind, actually, by the way. I'm not sure if you looked into that or not. Miso is one way of perhaps, if you want to dose yourself medicinally or add that to your diet, that might be something you might want to take a look at. But if you want to just briefly address that, perhaps. I have a couple other talking points here in mind. We're almost at the top of the hour, so have a go. What are your thoughts?
Well, I for one love weed. I'll start there. I'm not gonna beat around the bush. I do smoke pot, and I'm proud of it. I have no issues admitting so. As far as what the weed is the most innocent drug, and we're still fighting that war here in the U.S. And it's 2018. You figure by now, the U.S. at least would, which is the almighty superpower, would, had to, be done with this subject. Unfortunately, we're still dealing with it like if it's a big deal. But it really isn't. And it's funny that we touch upon Korea. And the fact that they're now they're legalizing it over there. That's it's amazing how far Korea has gotten compared to the U.S. and compared to a lot of other areas.
Yeah, it's just in the works right now. I'll send you the link. It's in the works. They're working up behind the scenes. Amazing. They might come out. We'll see how things go.
It's like weed was made illegal for the complete opposite of why things should be made illegal. Anything that should be illegal, it should be because it's bad for you. It kills you. It harms you. There's so many wonderful applications that could come out of hemp that it's ridiculous that it's illegal. It all stems from nylon and different industries back in the 20s and 30s, and even earlier than that, that wanted to outlaw this plant because it really was something that could do everything that these other things could do, and it could just do it better and at a cheaper price. So they all got together and colluded, and they outlawed this beautiful thing that is, by the way, properties that no other plant has on this planet. So think about that for a second. As far as people that think that there's a stigma behind it, I think that itself, it's ridiculous. I think if the further we grow and evolve as a species and as human beings, those stigmas will just fall by the wayside. Once more and more, scientific data also comes out on how harmless this plant is compared to a lot of other things. Look, cigarettes kill in the millions. Drinking kills in the millions. There hasn't been millions of people that die over smoking a joint of weed. So,
or eating a little cookie.
Right.
This is another popular way of doing it. In fact,
or a brownie or whatever.
Yeah. I suffer from chronic back pain, actually, as did Art Bell, I think, interestingly enough.
Correct.
And now I have lobbied my doctor directly, and for the longest time, I really need to get the rag out of my ass. and send an email and contact these bastards, because I'm sure they're a vested interest, but they're basically like the National Pain Institute here in South Korea, and I'd like to contact them and ask where things stand with weed, and have they been taking action? Have they been pressuring? Have they been lobbying? And there's some pretty powerful interests here with, as was outlined earlier, the pharmaceutical racket, alcohol and tobacco. They are huge. Every store you can imagine, almost, alcohol and tobacco. With the pharmacies, these drug stores, which some of my students don't quite understand, that that they're called drug stores, because they've been programmed to think pharmacy, because, as you say, with the whole stigmatization and the taboo, the big thing that my wife seems to fear so much, which really it's the boogeyman that you gotta, I ask myself, and it's quite obvious, where do these things come from? It's the ruling elite. Stupid, it's the 1% that are trying to program and really drive so much fear. It's the the fear porn. Have that really what is the word now? Well, just with society, basically have the nation in this case programmed, foisted, I think is the word, pushed upon just the fear porn drumming. Repetition is truth, is what Orwell said. So yeah, and once again, most Koreans here are just so ignorant, thinking that, oh God, addiction, that's the big thing that they try to push. Addiction. But alcohol and tobacco are fine. So is coffee. So is sugar. It's like you don't have to think, well, wait a minute, there's some cognitive dissonance going on here in a big way.
And it's funny because sugar is the number, and a lot of folks don't know this, but sugar is the number one inhibitor for cancer. Sugar feeds cancer. Yeah. So literally, if you consume a lot of sugar, it helps breed cancer in your body. So while you think that sugar is harmless, no, that's a very dangerous thing. I was having a conversation with a buddy of mine. He was like, I'm having all these fruits and vegetables, and I'm doing all the juicing, and I'm trying to get into shape and get my health on. And I'm like, well, have you read up on the fact that for example, fruits are loaded with fructose, which is a sugar substitute that is used in soda and a lot of different things now. Fructose is actually worse than sugar. So if you consume a lot of actual raw fruits, that's almost as bad as drinking soda, and a lot of folks don't know that. But it's because fructose is no better than sugar, and sugar is no better than fructose. By the way, some of you might notice that some sodas, like Pepsi or Mountain Dew, have the throwback where it says using real sugar, and you wonder, well, what the hell they've been using? What does that mean? That's because they've been using fructose. And a lot of folks just don't know that. But again, sugar is an inhibitor for cancer. So if you're looking at one of the things that kills millions and millions of people worldwide, cancer, what's his best friend? Sugar. And yeah, we cater it on everything. We put it on everything. Sugar's our buddy. We make sugar cookies. We make cakes. We pour it on all our things that that we want it to taste good. I remember, mind you, I'm gonna get a little personal here. I remember just a few years ago, my mother used to load up her cereal with sugar, and my mother passed away of cancer. And I started reading up on how bad sugar was, and that's when I discovered the fact that sugar actually is the number one thing that feeds cancer. So if you want to fight cancer in your body, delete the sugar and the fructose from your body, and you'll see a big change in your health, and you might actually be able to naturally fight cancer without having to go through the process of chemotherapy and all the other nasty things that cancer patients have to go through, sadly enough. And smoking cigarettes and all that stuff, obviously we've all been told the effects, and we all know the data on that stuff. But something as innocent as sugar and, fruits, how about oranges and bananas? Even though bananas are a great source of potassium, so keep that in mind that they are. A banana a day might not be too bad, but again, it turns into sugar. So there, and look, a lot of folks say rice. Rice is pure sugar. People that drink milk, they don't understand that, but when they chug down milk, milk turns to sugar in your body. So you have to be really careful what you drink and what you consume and you put in your body, no matter what part of the world you're in. Because a lot of the stuff that we consume and are taught to consume as kids are really, really bad for us. And is part of what's killing us. But yeah, you have this little plant that it fights cancer. It could take away multiple industries and replace them easily and make it more efficient and more, what's the word I'm thinking of? Reliable, for example. But yeah, that's the illegal thing, that one little plant. But you have all these other things that are toxic in nature and kill us, and they're legal. There's definitely a misbalance going on this planet when it comes to the way we see things, and it's all conditioning. That's all it is.
Well, yeah, and it's not so much the way we see things, so much as the way that they see things and the way that they expect us to see things. A lot of people
the way they want us to see
right,
things.
Yeah, a lot of people are waking up, though, it seems, thanks to the internet, and, well, that's one of the main things, I suppose. As well as just, I'm not sure how else people generally get red-pilled, as it were, but let's just well, and I want to talk a little bit about the baking soda, but before we do that, a couple things. Going to remind you that we've only got about half an hour left here for the duration of the conversation. Things really do fly by at rapid speed here when you are on the Robin Hood. As they say, time flies by when you're having fun. So we hit that magical dirty dozen mark, the 12 people up there in the YouTube chat. Go ahead.
Real quick, I want to actually make a little correction on the chat there, because I did say inhibit cancer, and there is two definitions for the word inhibit. One of the definitions is make self-conscious and unable to act in a relaxed and natural way, which that's what it does to cancer. It actually makes it self-conscious of what it is, and it relaxes it, and really it makes it kind of like part of the body, and it feeds it. So that's what sugar kind of does. So I kind of meant it in that sense. But no, they're right. Normally inhibit means restraint or hinder or prevent. But what it does is it inhibits and it makes things like chemotherapy do absolutely nothing but kill the good cells in the body. So either way, sugar's bad.
Oh yeah, absolutely. So I'm glad that you're aware of that, and I try to watch my sugar intake. It's something I've been aware of for a while now myself. Ice cream seems to, for whatever reason, when I overdose on it, give me the runs. I actually had to go out, ended up in the hospital just a couple of months ago. I pigged out on a bunch of ice cream, and there was some part there was down in the stomach area that just went all wonky and was causing a lot of pain and discomfort. So some instant karma, though, there for a reward for my gluttony, really. And I since then have really knocked it off and have been really wary and mindful of ice cream consumption and intake. I often worry about, what is that? Pancreatic cancer. There's what I'm looking for. That's a terrible cancer to get. It really I guess evolves quite quickly, and most people don't stand a real chance of any sort to survive. Frankly, it's pretty much a death sentence once you get that. But I was not really planning on talking so much about health issues with you today, although the fact is, yeah, you showed up with this thyroid condition. So I mean, let's get it on. Why not? So, but the baking soda too is a big. People want to look into that. Apparently, it's been used by the American U.S. Army now as a kind of not so much a secret weapon, so much as just a secret tool in the health and medical kit to help keep soldiers, in more optimal performing condition, I guess, with their overall health and ability to function as soldiers. But really, one of the things, and don't forget too, the miso, as I talked about earlier. I believe there was something that I heard a while ago talking about how that is helpful with people who suffer from thyroid conditions in many cases, from what I can recall. Anyways, but what I was thinking of talking about now, and there's a lot of activity, of course, too. Let's not forget, we up to about 12 people altogether. That's great to see engaging us here this week, including, well, let's just scroll up a little bit here. We saw East Texas UFOs, which is really great. That's being James West, who also runs the Tyranny Unmasked channel. So Nathan Tafoya, Free Cosmos. Well, a lot of these kind of UFO, alien, and ET believers, as it were, really. But, I mean, things have gotten to the point now where it's kind of hard not to, think that we're not alone. Speaking of what they want us to believe, I think that's really been another long-standing conspiracy, as with the war on some drugs. Let's not forget that, folks. Be careful with the programming. I think you hit on that point or laid that out there for people earlier, Angel. The way that we are, of course, conditioned and programmed in so many different ways.
Oh, but, yeah. You want to hear a quick fine example of programming and conditioning, and you guys could look this up on YouTube, and it'll blow your minds.
That's what you're here for. Yeah, we exactly. Yeah.
It completely blew my mind when I saw this video. If you look up on YouTube, dirt cookies, okay,
spider goats.
No. In Haiti, since the devastation that's happened in Haiti over the last decade, it's not easy. Yeah, well, it is what it is. Yeah, well, it is what it is.
Keep it real.
In Haiti, since it's gone so bad, economically, the way of life, it's not bad in the entire island of Haiti, but there's certain parts that's really, really terrible and really bad. They're actually feeding their young and feeding their population cookies made from dirt. Okay, yeah, and now when I say made from dirt, they're called mud cookies, sugar. They're called dirt cookies. Bum tears, I believe is another term for them, what they call them over there. And literally, these folks are sold bags of dirt for like $5, and they found a way to make cookies out of them, and they feed this to their kids. And this dirt is actually cultivated from a place where is mostly destruction from previous earthquakes and different things. And one of the things that the natives say is that they're filled with minerals and all kinds of different things. So this is the best they can give their young, because there's really no other form of feeding themselves. So they're conditioning themselves to literally live off dirt and to eat dirt. And their system is starting to accept it as a way of eating. If you or I went over to Haiti and started eating dirt cookies, I guarantee you it'll make us sick till we die within a couple of days, because we're not conditioned for that. But here they are over there eating it like it's a brownie. Like it's all good.
Let them eat dirt. So I'm not
horrible.
Well, it is horrific, of course, what has happened there and many other places throughout the world. We ourselves, knock wood, fortunate to be living in relatively developed environments where we're able to sustain ourselves, and in the event where we do find ourselves, as we age in particular, suffering from various ailments and conditions, such as thyroid issues, chronic back pain, just the list is endless, of course, that we're able to find, seek out and have medical treatment, of course, in both not just the modern sense, but in hopefully in a free sense, because really that's the bottom line, that we're able to choose rather than to have some imposed system, and that, such as with drugs, let's say pharmaceuticals, and not have the option of medical marijuana. That's the one thing that really gets my blood boiling, is how it's so obvious that we are, as you pointed out earlier, you hit on this obvious point that any 5-year-old, I'm sure, could quite clearly see, the way that we have good things that are kept under wraps and illegal because of the threat that they pose to the vested interests that have enriched themselves over the past how many ever years, and then we have the bad things that are endlessly foisted once again on us, or forced. So, and there we're talking, of course, the additives and the sprays and chemicals and all sorts of different products that it's bad for you, man. So that's one of the groups actually we have launched over on minds.com, folks. If you haven't checked it out, do so. Drop by and check out our channel, Pirate Radio Network. My personal channel is Jaffe Ryder. You've got the PSN Radio channel over there as well too. Hopefully going to see a little more action on that front from you over the coming weeks and months. We'll be sure as well too, if you do engage yourself over there, we will lend a hand and kind of help to show you the ropes and do our best to kind of get you tied into the action, as it were. But yeah, the War on Humanity group is what we're talking over there, and we can easily invite you if you subscribe to us. If anyone out there who is listening to the show, make sure, if you are over on minds.com, subscribe to us, or we won't be able to, for example, invite you to groups that have been launched. And that's kind of an important way of doing things as far as networking, but also sharing of information and just there's all kinds of good things, bonus fringe benefits, I suppose you would say, when it comes to just engaging others in social media. And frankly, look, I've been around enough, not in a big way, of course, but enough just as a spectator, more or less, to see that, God, even compared to Steam It, for crying out loud, which I'm sure you've heard of. I don't know if you have an account over there or not, Angel, but
no,
it's mine's
too many places, bro. My nephew came at
better.
the other day, and he's like, my nephew came up at me, and he's like, hey, Uncle Angel, I'm gonna go and jump on my Twitch account. Are you on Twitch? And I'm like, by the way, he doesn't speak like that. He has a more gentle voice. But I was like, no, nephew, I have a Twitch account, but I really haven't, paid attention to that either. The thing is, when a lot of these networks come up, I'll take a gander and see what they're like for, a little bit. But it all depends if it really catches my attention. And I'm not really as active as I used to be on Facebook or Twitter, even though I try to keep up a little bit. But and I'll tweet more than I'll Facebook these days, believe it or not. But I find the whole social media thing kind of also, kind of going, I'm moving past it a little bit. Kind of getting tired of the social media, being in your face all the time, collecting all the data of your life and putting it all out there, for everybody to see. And it's, as I get older, I think, and a lot of us feel that way as we get older, we tend to get a little bit more private about, our lives and stuff. And, it's weird to say that, because at the same time, we need social media for a lot of our work. You know, especially us podcasters, we with our social media, how we promote ourselves. So it's kind of like a razor's edge that we have to walk on, and I try to walk on it as much as possible and use the platforms, but I don't really engage as much as I should or used to.
Mm-hmm.
Now, as my health is, getting a little bit better, and believe it or not, in the future, if I do get back to where I'm, more and more engaged in doing the podcasting and doing the shows, I will return, more into the whole Twitter, Facebook, maybe get more and more into Minds, these other platforms that are out there. It's just one of those things, again, with life, you kind of sometimes have to look at certain things and be like, okay, that could hold off for now. That's not as important as all these other things that I'm dealing with at this very moment in time. And social media is just one of those things where it's kind of tiresome. After a while, you've had, everything from MySpace to Facebook, Twitter, the list goes on and on and on. It seems almost like every week there's a different platform, Instagram, Minds, or, it's like there's so many different places you can go to and socialize these days.
Well, one of the good things about Minds.com is it's open sourced and there's no censorship. A lot of people have really got pissed off with the censorship.
Yep.
It's free speech, so fuck this political correct bullshit, kind of tippy-toeing around with our speech and our opinions, and just the freedom to say what we want and not necessarily, just endlessly being either crucified or penalized because of it. So, and also you're rewarded for your engagement. So if you upvote or remind content or post new content, you get booster points, which then you can use to turn around and help. You use that in basically boosting your content or somebody else's content. Maybe you've got a friend who's got a great story out there that you'd like to help pick up more exposure. That's one way of doing it for sure. So, hey, but one of the things that we wanted to talk about here, and geez, look at the time. It's just crazy the way things are flying by here. I've got a couple rapid fire talking points here. Comic-Con, Stan Lee, and speaking of health conditions and aging and so forth, Steve Ditko recently passed away. Thinking you might have a few thoughts on that. You of course, we haven't got into it at all here really, but you are a big kind of pop culture aficionado. We wanted to talk a little bit about Star Wars. I don't know if you've got the energy or interest or not. We do have an after show, as you may be aware. It's the Rogues Gallery after show that runs typically for an hour. So that's, if you do stick around, that's maybe how we might end up having to do things this week. But also the Crystal Storm, I guess, who I'm not sure if the two of you have more or less parted ways, if you're still on amicable terms or not. Last I heard, though, I think it was from you, maybe somebody else, but that she was setting off to launch her own network of sorts.
Crystal is going to be a friend for life. I love her. She's an amazing person, and she's doing her thing, and I support her 100%. And whatever she decides to do, she's always welcomed on PSN. She was actually one of the first hosts to jump on the network years and years ago, and she's been very, much a friend ever since. She's doing her own thing again, and she's a great person. And if you guys haven't seen her show, Women in Hoodies, it's a lot of fun. It's a really funny show. Check her out. It's YouTube related more now. It's video related, which is cool because she has a great face for radio and an excellent face for YouTube. She really does. She's just beautiful girl, and she was a member of Skywatchers Radio for a long while, and she actually went out to the MUFON convention with me, and my then co-host, who's now the main host on Skywatchers Radio, Alan Weiler, and it was me, Alan, and her, and we had a lot of fun out of MUFON a couple years ago. And I missed interacting with her as much as possible. But I check her show out every once in a while, and then she's doing great. She really is. I got no beef with anybody, man. I'm a very friendly human being, and it's I try to be. Even though the world is a little bit of a cruel planet, it can be a little strange of a world sometimes, and people are out there sometimes to push your buttons and kind of mess with you and edge you into arguing and whatnot. But I try to live my life as Stan Lee would say, by the Excelsior, method. Just just do every day like it's the best day of your life, until like just be positive, man. And shout out to Mr. Stan Lee. He's not in the greatest of health, sadly enough, and he is one of my heroes in life. I'm a huge Marvel fan, DC fan. And he is literally a god in the comic book industry. So, it's sad that he's going through his health issues. And we recently lost on the 29th of June here, Steve Ditko, who was one of the co-creators of Spider-Man with Stan. And another amazing person, another amazing human being. And, but these folks are up there in age. So, sadly enough, this is, what we are. We are human beings, and we do pass away. And, when one leaves, we really reflect on who they were. And I think, Steve Ditko, for a long time, didn't get the respect he deserved as a co-creator of Spider-Man. And the last few years, finally, he's been getting that respect. And it's a beautiful thing to see folks honoring him and the way they have since he died. He was a great artist, and his work is legendary, and it will always be there for us to marvel at. And these are two guys that come to Earth to change perspective on things. And while you say, well, they just created a couple of comic books, but think about how different the planet would be if we didn't have the Marvel universe, if we didn't have Spider-Man. Think about how different, things would be. You say, hey, they're just a bunch of characters, but they mean so much to society because they reflect on us, the best and the worst that we have to offer to humanity in a lot of ways, and it kind of mirrors us to look at ourselves. And when I look at the films or I read the comics, I picked up on that, a lot of them when I was a kid. And I was one of these kids where I grew up in a really bad neighborhood, but I had my head buried in comics and books and novels, and I loved to read as a kid, and I was always kind of into these kind of things, and that really helped in a positive way. So you would say, yeah, comics are kind of dumb, but at the same time they're really not. I mean, it helps distract you from a lot of the nastiness that is going on in life, which is something that a lot of folks don't really see right up front. But there is a great benefit to comics, and hopefully it's a medium that never goes away. I'm one of these guys that love streaming comics, but I love having the hard comic in my hands, and the actual novels, the actual books. So I still, buy a lot of them and read them, and that's the kid in me. I'll never give that stuff up. And hopefully Stan Lee is around for a long time. Sadly enough, though, he is getting up there in age, and he's getting to the point where they start to leave us. Jeff, that's not good.
95 years old, and the last video footage that I saw of him, he actually was at what appeared to be a convention and or some public appearance of some sort, and he looked quite feeble. In fact, having his assistant having to take him by the hand and actually literally move his hand over so he could sign the book. He looked like he was quite possibly, I'm guessing, drugged or doped up, and I don't know if he's feeling too well as of late, not just from a physical standpoint, but also spiritually. His wife left him just a year or so ago, I guess. He's been severely targeted, though, it seems like, too, with all these vultures around him that are, it's quite malicious and sad the way that some people are, these predators, not just necessarily of the sexual sort, but these types are strictly out for, it looks like, financial gain and interest. And so there's been some recent court hearings and deliberations, and I don't know if you followed them that closely or not. Have you been keeping an eye on things on that front?
Yeah, I mean, I've read of some of the allegations that have come out. I don't believe any of that stuff. I don't think that Stan Lee is, trying to pinch a nurse's behind. And look, he's an old man. He's not doing well health wise. I got to see him once in person, and I didn't get to shake his hand or interact with him in any way. But he was like late 80s, early 90s when I got to him, and he's what, 95 now.
Mm-hmm.
And after losing his wife, I mean, that is tragic. That's his life partner, and I'm pretty sure that has taken its toll on its health more than anything else. And more than, I mean, losing somebody who's been with you, for as long as they have been together, I'm sure it affected them greatly. So that's another thing we have to look at. And a lot of times, in Jeffy, I'm pretty sure you're aware of this, when somebody at his age loses their wife or the major the person they spend most time with in their life, if they pass away, normally they don't last very long. So his health deteriorating the way it has doesn't shock me, just because knowing that his wife had just left him and whatnot. So it's overall something that I don't believe. Some of these allegations that are coming out, I think, like you said, these are vultures that are circling Stan at the moment, just trying to pick away at his legacy for monetary reasons. I think they just want to get paid. That's all it is, and it's a sad statement on society today, where a living legend like Stan Lee, can't transition to the other side, or live out the rest of his life and enjoy whatever time he has left without all that nonsense going on around him. It's a sad statement of the way we live our lives on this little planet. But more power to him for whatever time he has left. The fact somebody has to write his name down on something as a signature or whatever doesn't shock me, because at the end of the day, Stan Lee wanted to be there, believe it or not, and he loves those conventions. He loves going out and meeting the public, and even if he's not fully conscious of what's going on, believe me, he wants to be there, and he's happy it's going on down, and it's going down like that because this is what he lived for, and he lives for that kind of stuff. He loves the interaction with the fans, and you can see that the glimmer in his eye whenever you see him speak on video and whatnot. There's always that passion just to interact with folks, and in a positive manner. I mean, I know folks who know Stan, who've met him, who are friends of his, and they all swear about how nice of a man he's been through all the years. Now that we have skeletons in our closet, yeah, we all have things we've done or said which might not paint us in a perfect picture, because nobody's a saint at the end of the day. And I'm sure he's got some skeletons in his closet. But you know what? He's at a certain age where I said we need to just leave him alone and just help him as far as we can, if we're around him. And for these vultures, I kind of hope they just disappear and let the man just live the rest of his life in peace and love. And hopefully the community that is the Marvel and comic book community really just continues to embrace Stan, and I hope nothing negative happens out of that whole thing. It's stupid. It's stupid the way that now all of a sudden, any little thing can be blown up into a major thing where you lose everything in life. And it could be a tweet, it could be a Facebook post. And God knows I'm never going to run for politics, so I have no fear of anybody finding anything that I've tweeted out. But I've tweeted out some nasty things over the years, and I'm not 100% proud of everything I tweet, but I also don't care. Whatever I tweet, I tweet. It's whatever random stuff comes to mind. But look at Roseanne Barr, for example. She made a stupid tweet, lost everything, over a dumb tweet. Mind you, it was a tweet taken, out of context, or whatever. She said she was on medication, whatever the excuse is.
It was a joke. It was a joke. It was a joke. And some people, anytime you make a joke, some people are not going to like it.
Right. But the thing is,
some people will, some people won't.
It's a joke. She's a comedian. What do you expect from a comedian?
I think she pussied out. She pussied out. I'm really disappointed with her, the way that she should have stood her ground. And yeah, they had, I guess it was Disney or something like that, had every a right to fire her, I suppose. She still has the First Amendment rights. But I suppose she could have sued as well, too. You know what I mean? Like, maybe, I'm not sure, she looked into that option. But at the same time, I guess from what I heard, she signed the contract. Because of her track record, that was one of the provisions, I guess, that she would kind of behave herself and not make a public spectacle as she has so, quite notoriously over the years, from the crotch grabbing incidents, spitting at the national anthem back in the day, and so on and so forth. For the most part, I kind of like her. Not a big fan of her politics as far as a few things are concerned, number of issues, Israel and the like. But, that aside, I can appreciate her as an artist. That's not a problem. I think she's very talented. And I do appreciate the way she has spoken out on MK Ultra. I think that's great. But so you take the good with the bad, and I support her. But at the same time, I think she pussied out, and that's just not the way of doing things in this day and age. But hey, we got to keep things moving along here without getting too bogged down in the minutia. Harlan Ellison took a dirt nap earlier this month. Joe Emanon has texted here, basically in the YouTube chat area. He was sad to hear about that. I guess his girlfriend, I'm not sure if it's a wife exactly, Carla, is listening to this week's show. The two of them have been longtime supporters of the Pirate Radio Podcast project, essentially. We don't like to refer to the people that drop in and make up the crew, essentially, as followers, because we feel that gets a little on the kind of cultish side. We like to come up with something. There's got to be some special way of referring to the people that do tune in and want to engage us here on a week-to-week basis. Listeners out there, do your best to try to come up with a name. I dubbed something or another. So, so much of what we've developed to this point has emerged organically as Leo Ashcraft, for all his kookiness and, just his hot-tempered, personality, that he did have a few things to offer. And that was one of the insights that he shared back in the day, was that just rather than forcing things, let them, as far as the creative end, just emerge organically, and they will. So we've had a lot of that kind of stuff, including the name for the network, WPRPN, World Pirate Radio Podcast Network. That for some people, they scratch their heads, and some people complain, or they trip over their tongue, or they can't remember it exactly. It's I find it hilarious the way it's like your fucking homework, people. Okay, it's your homework. It's your pirate homework. So, but anyways, so Harlan Ellison, that's and another kind of big name in the world of popular literature and the like. He actually, I'm not sure if you know this or not, but I always get these two episodes confused. It's not Where No Man Has Gone Before. What was that original Star Trek episode?
City on the Edge of Forever.
There we go. Yes. Thank you very much. Yep. Free Cosmos, a.k.a. Tommy Shutter. I'm sure he's up to speed on that little piece of trivia, as is Joe Emanon out of Long Island, New York there. Now that we've got him actually in our sights, why don't we talk a little bit about the John Ford case? I'm not sure. I know that we asked you about it last time round. It's been a couple of years. Did you manage to kind of either, check out the shows that we'd archived or do any legwork there at all to kind of get a little clearer on things? I'm not sure. Maybe putting you a little on the spot here, but have you been following things?
Totally putting me on the spot there, my friend. Give me a couple more years, and we'll do another show on John Ford. Guaranteed.
Oh, geez. Well, you really. I'll send you the link. I got to remember to do that because I guess it sounds like not going to do it on your own, but it's worth checking out. It really is, and it's a really great story. Something that Bill Burns obviously covered, and I think you might have. I'm not sure. Maybe you missed out on that show. But we have in the house here, actually, Pirate Joe Emanon is John's power of attorney, and there's been some recent developments on that front where he actually, it looks like now, may be getting his habeas corpus, his time in court, his rights recognized and upheld finally after being locked up in an asylum for the past 20 plus years. We'll set that to the side, though. No worries, and just kind of keep things moving along here as best we can.
At this point, though, do you really want to let him loose on society, though? After spending 20 years in a crazy house,
he didn't. Well, he didn't do anything wrong.
But he's been in that crazy house for 20 years.
Well, do you want to set people that locked up in jail loose out after 20 years? Does anyone? I mean, that's the whole point. You do your time, you pay your debt to society. Here's the thing, though, that with the psychiatric industry, they think they can actually fix you by removing what are essentially nothing more than labels in all too many cases. They've got a label for everything. That's all it is, it seems, if you look into it with the Diagnostic Statistical Manual. I think they're up to like number 4 now. It's a huge growth industry that every time they publish a new book, it just gets bigger and bigger and bigger. I mean, and that's what Freud, I guess, talked about. I've been working on trying to track this down, but his whole scheme right from the get-go, his plan was to basically come up with these so-called mental illnesses and neuroses, for every little single thing that we did, every facet and part of human society, and what it means to be human. That's their game plan. So it's incredible the way that they've got things laid out, and the cash cow industry too, the drugging, forced state drugging, big issue. I wasn't planning on really kind of engaging you on this front, but it's just something that's an adjunct of sorts, I suppose. Something that I know is kind of near and dear to the hearts of a few of our regular listeners. Shout out to Johnny Webb, having dropped in here right at the tail end of this week's stream.
Definitely.
Good to see him. It's kind of tough, of course. What is it out there? Well, in England, it's got to be. I'm always bad with these times. I don't know. Was it 2 in the morning or 3 in the morning? 4? I have no idea.
Yeah, something.
Anyways, let's see what else we have on the list of talking points here.
One thing I wanted to actually address, and this is somebody who just recently passed away, and shocked I think the entire community of fanboys, like myself. You brought up Star Wars, and the geek culture that I am part of. We recently lost one of our members that is was a big voice to geekdom and to fandom. Mr. John Schnepp passed away recently. I don't know if you're familiar with his work at all, and if you're not, please look up John Schnepp on Facebook, YouTube, Google his name, John Schnepp. He was the director of the film Superman What Happened, and this is a documentary that takes place over the course of the late 90s, early 2000s, where he looked back at a project of the movie Superman, where Warner Brothers was actually allowing Tim Burton to direct. I don't know if you're familiar with this little project, where Tim Burton was directing a Superman movie, and Nicolas Cage was going to play Superman in this film. and the project went to pre-production. They had tests of the suit and all kinds of stuff, and then Warner Brothers kind of like, I guess, they must have been on some crazy, mind-bending drug binge when they allowed this to be greenlit, but somebody came to their senses and stopped the project in mid pre-production, and thank God they did. If not, we would have had Nicolas Cage as Superman in the early 2000s. Think about that for a second. Just think about that.
Oh, you're saying this is after the initial Christopher Reeve? What did he do? 2 or 3 Superman?
He did 4.
Movies?
He did 4 movies. Right, he did 4 movies, and then they kind of like stopped for a while, and they were going to bring the character back in a movie called Superman Lives, with Nicolas Cage playing the part of Superman. Since at this point, Christopher Reeve unfortunately had his accident and he couldn't play the role anymore, and Nicolas Cage was going to step into the part and kind of bring back the character, with Tim Burton directing, of all people. And John Schnepp created an amazing documentary based on that project that never left or took off the ground, pun intended. And it was a really an it was like an eye-opening view into the world of filmmaking, into how these things are shaped and molded by the studios and by the directors, and how sometimes things work and things don't work, and how projects come together and then fall apart. And John did a beautiful job in showing us, little glimpses of what's going on in that project. And he was on Collider for a long time, also as a contributor on Collider on YouTube, and a great guy. I mean, really fascinating human being to listen to and watch. And he left us a few days ago, and rest in peace, man. Fandom will never be the same, as we lose, people like that who bring, their heart and soul to these projects and do it for the love of, the characters and the love of, their own culture, which is the community that I'm a part of as well, which is the comic book, movie, fandom community. And he's going to be forever loved and missed. So shout out to John Schnepp and his family. And again, look him up on YouTube. GoFundMe. There's a GoFundMe page if you guys want to help out his family. Look up John Schnepp on GoFamily or GoFundMe, and check out his page on there. Please contribute. It's a sad story, and all things considered. Lost another good guy.
The spelling of the surname being Schnepp.
Correct, Schnepp.
How about that?
Yep.
The Death of Superman Lives is the title, I believe, according to what Pirate Joe Emanon has provided us with here. We just added a link, actually, to the YouTube chat. People can click onto that, and it'll take them to the live listening page that we have in place now, courtesy of WPRPN.com. And a big thanks, of course, to the work of, I'm not sure who we should necessarily be crediting. I think it's probably Tommy Shutter is who will be wanting to salute and offer a tip of the pirate hat to. So great work on that front. But as far as the number of celebrities, yes, Hugh Hefner, Chuck Berry, I think I should have had more names than that, frankly, but there's been quite a, but Hugh Hefner and Chuck Berry, there's another guy there up in his 90s that was 92. There's this endless number, and I mean, hey, the road only goes so far, and then it's upward and onward, folks. We're all here to go, is how William S. Burroughs actually famously put it, and I think that's a great way of looking at it. It's often said, too, that the ultimate role of the philosopher, interestingly enough, is, and warrior, too, I believe, preparation for death, so that each and every waking moment, conscious moment, breath that we take, it's done with the awareness and mindfulness of the fact that the state that we currently find ourselves in is really quite impermanent and subject to endless change. The Koreans have a great way of putting it. Sengro Pyangsa, the 4 stages of life, basically. Seng is the birth, Ro, getting older and growing, changing, Pyang, sickness, ailments, disease, discomfort, and so forth, and finally Sa, death. Sengro Pyangsa, very Buddhist, and people talk about, in fact, well, here in Korea, sometimes I ask people, I'm sure around the world it'd be the same. What are your thoughts on Buddhism? Do you believe, Buddhism has anything, truth to offer? And they say, oh, well, a lot of people, it's very too superstitious. And there is that end of things where you can go off into the realm of superstition. That's fine. Some people do it with the gods and goddesses and so forth. But it's also very scientific from the standpoint to which I just laid out for people, the empirical standpoint of birth, aging, disease, sickness, change, and ultimately death. There's no escaping it, folks. What did Jim Morrison say? Nobody here gets out alive. So, I wish there's a few more names that would have come to mind.
Stephen Hawking. I can't believe you missed Stephen Hawking.
Sure. Yeah, that's another one. In fact, if our co-producer up there in the crow's nest could maybe do a quick little DuckDuckGo search for if he hasn't fallen asleep, that is, or passed out as a result of the excessive consumption of pirate grog that some of our crew members do tend to imbibe in. Let's get that out there. Let's get that straight. Pronunciation-wise, always important to be able to articulate and not mumble or stumble over the words we're trying to share with the listening audience.
Yeah, Drew, sorry about that.
I'm speaking for myself. Nobody else. Drew, are you still with us, or have you? We had one guy here that was actually up on the crow's nest, and I think we lost him. He fell right out and was lost down in the
I'll say this: Joe in the chat. Right, sorry, Joe in the chat room says Jesus loved me. This I know because Republicans told me so. Funny enough, Jesus is definitely the most quoted prophet in the Quran. But there's also stories of him studying with the Dalai Lama the ways of the Buddha, and some of the early writings of Jesus that deal with the afterlife are from teachings directly that deal with the Buddha and Buddhism, and the afterlife. The whole concept that Christianity has ran with comes directly from Buddhism. So
born again. What's that? Born again. That people are so it's like staring them right there in the face, and so many people just don't get it. It's like, here's the thing, I take a very scientific approach. I think I do at least. Energy is neither created nor destroyed, but rather endlessly finds itself changing and transformed. That's like one of the laws of, conservation, I believe. Thermodynamics, something along those lines. People can look it up easily enough. And then secondly, and I think this is actually all Newtonian physics, if I'm not mistaken, but the law of conservation of energy. It's okay. Let's just we'll leave that aside. But but it's something along those lines for sure. Mark my words. If I'm wrong, let me hear about it. Not a problem. Secondly, though, that for every action there is a reaction of equal yet opposite effect. There's your karma, folks. That's the law of motion. I believe that's Newton as well. So people can say, pusha, poppycock, or what have you, but I think there's something to it, And the fact is, people talk about, is there an afterlife? Well, what are we doing here in the first place? What's this? What's going on, man? They're always talking about the afterlife and this, let's focus on what we got here and now. Isn't this something? That's what Confucius was all about, too, when he was actually approached by a student or just someone, a curious kind of somebody that was, Chinese civilian or what have you, and he said that there was enough to worry about regarding the here and now than getting all hung up in what takes place when we die. So, but I'm not sure if we lost Drew up there or not. It kind of looks like we did. We'll give him one more kind of shout out here and see if we can manage to connect. There we go. So yeah, how did that go? Did you manage to come up with a list of the number of celebrities that passed away over this past just year or so? I know Carrie Fisher, but that was a couple of years ago now. It's amazing how time flies.
Yeah, no kidding. Rest in peace,
Drew.
Oh goodness.
Yeah, I'm looking right now.
Okay.
Trying to pull it up.
We'll just put that. We'll keep you. We'll just basically just let us know when you come up with something, and we'll take it from there. But we really do need to shift the focus now to winding things down. Of course, we did get off to a bit of a late start, but I think that's been a pretty decent conversation we've managed to engage ourselves in. I think hopefully listeners got their money's worth, which is, of course, completely free. Unless you pony up and decide to become one of our pirate tip jar supporters via either Patreon, PayPal, which is really kind of even better yet, or Minds.com. If you've enjoyed any of the shows that we put together here over the past couple of years, folks, found any of the guests or information engaging or informative, enlightening perhaps, helpful in any way, we'd most appreciate you showing your love and support by, just $1 or $2, really, via, once again, one of those various means, the Pirate Tip Jar. Half of everything we manage to generate goes directly to charity. That's the Robin Hood mandate, people. So, and if you can't do that, don't forget, there's always the option of simply liking, sharing, or reminding the content, the links to our shows, or what have you. Anything you can find related to the network, even just the main WPRPN.com web link. Get that out there in your social media feed and landscape, just the various connections you've got out there, and we'll see where it all leads to. You yourself, of course, have once again the project you've helped to really, I think you've done. It's a one-man show, more or less. Don't know if you've got any help from too many other people out there, but PSN hyphen radio, I call it's PSNradio.com. People can find it easily enough. You just type that into the search engine, it comes up in a flash there. So we really, I think, should set up a link exchange of some sort. Don't you think it's maybe about time? I thought we had something with you, and in fact, if you look into the archives on our website, you can probably find it. But with this recent overhaul that Tommy Shutter has helped bring about, we've got to really kind of take a look at reorganizing things and getting everything laid out in a more kind of, I guess, orderly, chronological fashion. But yeah, one of the things we could think about doing, I suppose, is getting just a banner link exchange or something set up there. Anything that just comes to mind, just right off the top of your head?
Yeah. Whenever you're ready. In fact, I'm pretty sure I got you linked up on some of my pages. I mean, I have so many websites. Just drop me a banner and we'll put it on there. And I'd love to help promote you guys. In fact, if you don't mind, I have a Patreon account which I just put together. And I put it online recently. If you don't mind me plugging that website, it's very simple.
You can plug any website you want, Angel. That's why we put this platform together. Is every week we have a guest that we feature, put in the spotlight, and really try to just it's promote you basically. So let's hear it.
Well, it's very simple. Just find patreon.com and look up patreon.com/Angel Espino, my name, and you'll see my account right there. And hopefully that it helps bring in a little revenue, helps the situation to where I could dedicate more time to a lot of this stuff and research, and not have to worry about paying my bills with my regular 9 to 5 as much as I do. It's funny because I have also a PayPal account, and we have donations through there and stuff. But everybody keeps telling me, "Oh, Patreon, that's where you got to go." And so we set that up again. Patreon.com/Angel Espino. Very simple to find. And our main website, yes, again, it is www.psn, I guess hyphen or dash radio.com, however you want to say it. But it's psnradio.com. Public Service Network Radio. That's what PSN stands for. Why do we call it Public Service Network? Because we're all about the public, man. We're all about you, the listeners. Whatever you guys want to hear, you tell us, this is the kind of content we want, and that's the kind of content we're going to give you. And whether it's, fast-paced, news, up-to-date reports on, the current things that are happening around the world. We have shows that cover everything from hard-hitting news, political, stuff in the world of ufology, stuff in the fandom universe like comic books and movies, entertainment. We strive to kind of cater to a little bit of everything, and hopefully the network keeps picking up and it keeps growing over the years. And one thing I definitely want to do, though, as I do get older and I do kind of transition into more of a behind the scenes type of guy, is really build the network up and not so much be on air talent, but to be able to make the network run a little bit smoother, because it's not easy to have your own shows plus run a network and do all the little things that you have to do to feed both and make sure that both are prosperous. And I don't only do one show, as you know. I do multiple shows where I was either the talent on air, or I was producing, or was this or that. And I'm trying to cut that down, but the network is something that we're definitely going to keep pushing. So if you guys want to help us out, help out with the Patreon account, join us on PSN Radio. I'd love to get a banner exchange going with Jaffe here. I mean, that's definitely something that we do. We should have done that years ago, to be honest. We're slipping, Jaffe.
We've been having no, don't worry about it. We've been having enough trouble here just getting our act together. So once again, thanks to the work and effort and expertise, really, of Tommy Shutter stepping in to the picture there and up to the plate, really helping to upgrade things. And that's the sort of energy that we need, basically, to just better up our game and get things more clearly mapped out. So now it puts us more in a position where we can more easily set banner link exchanges up, along with everything else that we have in place already with the content and so forth. People, just as they navigate WPRPN.com and find all kinds of great stuff there. So but hey, it's been a really great time. I'm not sure if you're going to be able to stick around for the after show or not, but that's always a lot of fun. I think hopefully we've got a few people here via the chat, of course, that more than willing to be a part of things. In the meantime, though, it sounds like we've got a special... who is this? Okay, this is, kind of who we thought it might be. We weren't too sure there at first, but he doesn't often make his presence known. I think he's back, though, just to talk to you in particular, Angel. Hang on a second.
Uh-oh.
Captain Sinclair. Yeah, we got him now. He's connected?
Yeah, he's connected right there. Jaffe, Captain Sinclair here, Long John Sinclair. It's been a while, but I'm just out strolling along the bluff here, Dead Man's Bluff, looking out over Mystic Bay. Rather windy here this evening, and thought that I'd try to reach out to Angel. It's been a while. Welcome back to the Robin Hood, Angel.
How you doing, my friend? And you sound awful like me. right now.
I've heard the comparison to Doctor Who, some sort of robot from Doctor Who. I have no idea what this is. Thomas Sheridan once made that comparison. I had no idea whatsoever. I guess I
exterminate.
Well, we could exterminate, but more we are focused here on setting aloft out on the high digital seas, plundering from time to time, social networking fine, but also in true pirate fashion, seeking out our fortune via the high digital seas. And, well, choose your enemies carefully, as the expression goes. Doing our best to make friends with whoever we can, but careful in crossing swords. Sometimes...
You
find yourself coming up against a very powerful opponent, and maybe not such a great idea. But there's all sorts of wonderful things. In fact, I'm heading down now into the harbor, Skullport Harbor, and going to fill my flagon full of grog with the rest of the crew here, hoping you'll do the same. You feel no obligation, though. It's strictly optional. Well, you don't want to put him on the spot there now, Captain. I wasn't putting him on the spot. It was just an invitation. Well, yeah, we kind of did the same. He's got like a thyroid issue, and that's not really the easiest thing to deal with. The thyroid,
sadly, gentlemen, I'm gonna have to probably bow out in a few minutes here.
Well, it's really wonderful that you did drop in, and that's why I wanted to reach out to you to extend a word of thanks. Really a yeoman's service, going that extra mile to appear here this week and be a part of the show with Jaffe, Drew, all of the listeners here, and the Pirate Radio Podcast weekly feature presentation. All the best, Angel.
Thank you, guys.
All right, well, so it sounds like, unfortunately he will not be able to make the after show, but we do have a few of the folks out there in the YouTube area who will hopefully be able to engage us, as we typically do here. The premium content we put together for our Patreon supporters, first and foremost. Listen to that wind howl. Isn't that something? So, Drew, just any closing comments then? Thoughts on today's show?
It's been a great show. I've enjoyed the conversation. I've enjoyed the conversation with the chat, as always. It's always fun interacting with the chat. It's one of my favorite things to do. But, Captain, I think we forgot something.
Yeah, go ahead. Well, the captain actually is... I think he's gone. You can tell me and I'll pass it on to him.
I think we forgot the pirate story.
Well, no, actually, I'm not sure if Angel's still there or not, but I think the first time around, Angel, you shared a pirate story with us, did you not?
I did. I think it came from Comic-Con a few years ago, where I was at one of the conventions, and one of my buddies brings over a whole pirate crew that were promoting a pirate, I believe it was a show they did out from city to city. And I have a little connection when it comes to like the whole pirate thing myself, with a few of my buddies that are really into it. And it's funny. It's I've loved pirate movies as a kid and whatnot, but I don't have any recent pirate stories, sadly enough.
Well, I think that's probably good enough, really. That should suffice. It's it is a part of the ship's articles and what the captain does require of guests, that they bring some sort of, as Drew has reminded us here, great, good on you there, Drew, managing to, that's something that we often, you wouldn't believe the number of times we overlook that little detail, as it were. But yeah, you've got to show your pirate credentials each and every week, whichever guest you are, and you've done a great job there. Just even showing up here with that thyroid condition, I know it can't be easy. So, but I think we pretty much run the gamut here, and shared all the links, hopefully, that we can possibly manage.
Yeah.
PSN Radio, you can find it anywhere. Really on social media, not a problem. So Well, thank you then. Once again, Angel, I guess we'll cue up the outro here. We've got, don't forget, great August schedule coming up here. This is the end of what we have to share with people via the July portion of things. So be sure to tune in and join us here in August. We've got a lot of work to do with the schedule here. And we're going to continue, of course, let's not forget, with the midweek World Pirate Radio news stream. Drew, hopefully, going to continue engaging us on that front and helping to make the stream sail along quite smoothly. Hopefully haven't overlooked too much here, but we're going to head on out and maybe find ourselves, well, Drew, where is it? The Howling Wolf, in the Scurvy Dog, or the Mossy Wench? I'm not sure which one of those best suits your appetite at the moment. What do you reckon?
I'm a particular fan of the Howling Dog.
The Howling Dog, Howling Wolf. It's all the same. It all works, I guess. It's all good. So, hey, thanks everybody. Up to 12, 13 people that joined us this week in the live YouTube chat. Of course, Angel Espino. Great performance and conversation on his end of things. Really managing to come through there. We're off to a bit of a late start, but thankfully we managed to put together a pretty decent stream. So until we meet again out on the high digital seas, on behalf of Captain Long John Sinclair, myself, Drew Lima, and all the rest of the crew here on the Robin Hood, I'm your ship's Chief Communications Officer, Jaffe Ryder. Tally ho.
I know. There we be. Having carefully looked over each of our navigation panel instruments, checking every level, switch, dial, cable, knob, and pulley, by all accounts and indications, we indeed see it's time once again to drop anchor inside Mystic Bay and draw an end to another week Pirate Radio podcasts. Remember, if you're looking for a little more lively online action, keep in mind we've likely got yet another great free-flowing Rogues Gallery after show coming up for the next hour in either Skype, Google Hangouts, or Peer.in. Also, if you've in any way enjoyed or found yourself benefiting from the shows we've tirelessly produced over the past 2 years, you might want to drop by our Patreon tip jar page and lend a little support. Half of all network donations go directly to charity. Help to keep those numbers growing over on Patreon, and we'll be able to extend even more of a generous pirate hand. Looking forward now to the balance of 2018, we're still not quite yet booked. So if you yourself have a new, novel, intriguing, or otherwise underreported idea, unique individual, or pressing item in mind, be sure to either drop us a line directly over on WPRPN.com or fire us a quick email via pirateoneradio@gmail.com. We're always open to exploring fresh creative suggestions, intriguing guest ideas, cutting-edge discussion topics, and captivating themes. You can further embark on your own personal pirate journey by either liking, commenting on, subscribing to, or just following us via virtually any mainstream social media platform, including Twitter, Facebook,